Hello, everybody. This is going to be the long-awaited explainer video for the Reading Spreadsheet of Doom 2018. Hooray! Which I should probably put a link to in the video description. Right now, if you want, you can go to my Twitter feed, at Let's Read, and I have the download link for the spreadsheet. It'll be the first thing on the list, pinned to my feed. Right now, I'm going to be taking you through some of the changes, as well as some of the improvements that we've made over the past year. Now, this year was more interesting because usually I end up spending the bulk of December kind of reworking the spreadsheet a fair bit and building all the new stuff in. But this year I decided to keep track of a list of changes that people had either requested or that seemed very common, like commonly used kind of things, and worked on them a little bit here and there throughout the year. Now, this is not going to be the most comprehensive list of changes because some of them I don't remember. And I'm going to be using the 2017 spreadsheet to kind of show all this. Now, this 2017 spreadsheet has been updated to the same sort of specs as the 2018 one. You might see a few changes or differences. For example, where there's this little red text here, this is something that I'm like working on because there's some numbers that I want to throw together for 2019. But currently, this is the 2018. This will reflect 2018's changes. Now, where to actually begin? Because most of the changes are pretty superficial. To take you through some of the early fixes, I noticed that I think some of the genre stuff wasn't working properly, and I think the month of February for 2017 wasn't working. February or March, somewhere in there, there was a number that was off, and so it was basically going to report, aha, it's probably March. It was reporting everything as 0 books. Actually, I didn't read anything in March. Never mind. So feel free to join in the chat. Hopefully the stream is working for everybody. And I can answer questions as they come up, but first I'll take you through the big general overview. We have a few new categories, and I don't know if I added them to this. Okay, so one of the big changes from last year was we worked on some saving stuff. So before, I believe I had a cost analysis thing where you could enter how much stuff was, and I've added a list price thing. Again, some of this might be rehash, but there is a list price that will... Hey, Revenge. Okay, Revenge is a gamer that I play with, and he has claimed the chat first. We've added list price, so now you can enter the price of the list. Originally, this was designed as like if you had a library book, but I'm treating it more holistically as it went to the store and bought it or got it from the library kind of thing. So you can actually total how many savings you have overall, not just the library. That's mostly the same. None of that's that's all new stuff, so we don't have to worry about that. New stuff for the next year. Under the book surveys, we're going to see the biggest difference. We have added, this is going to be quick too because there are not as many changes. I've revamped publisher. We've added more publishers since last year, so now you can add even more publishers under your big publisher list. Although, as I know this already, people have messaged me, it's still not enough, and it will never ever be enough. There are too many publishers. My thinking is that if you group it under the sort of big 5 and only list a few small press things, and it works out great, but many people are way more into it than that. So, we've also got, I changed a little bit of the acquired, new, used, and location stuff. So one thing I noticed was that there was acquired, like new, used, library, gift, free, what have you, and it was kind of really getting split into a lot of different categories. So I ended up making a new and used category all by itself. Because sometimes I thought, you know what, you might get a gift, but the book itself could have been used. Or maybe you bought something that was a purchase, and that purchase was used. And so, granted, you could say that the library, things that are gifts, things that are free, things that are advanced reader copies, are also free or something, but I figured this way you can actually put the condition of the book. If it was new, used, or... Oh, it's not showing on that one. None of these are showing up. Great. The drop down itself should say new, used, and library. Why? There we go. New, used, and library. So that way, you bought a book, hooray, new. You buy a book, it's used, or if you got it from the library. So you're also going to have 3 different library listings under location, acquired, and new and used. So we have... so this has changed a little bit. And then there's also shelf. So if basically you read a book, but the book was something that you previously owned or was on your shelf already, you can just list it as shelf. It does seem to say the stream is lagging for anyone else. Oh my gosh, all my gaming friends are on. Hello, Frank. Hello, Revenge. Hello, Rich. YouTube's quality is quite horrific tonight, so I'm not sure how good this is going to be. If I need to redo it, I will redo it. But maybe I can turn my stream settings down a little bit, although they should be set to just the usual defaults. So location-wise, did I change anything in there? No, location's pretty much the same. And then for we have a couple new categories that I added in the middle of last year. One is Earth ? Which is, does the book take place on Earth? I thought about this a long time. People said, hey, it'd be great to have a world map setting where you can basically enter... you can enter in a country or location. Now I have it set up so you can enter the country, like the origin, the country of origin for the author, but not for like the actual setting of the book. And the reason why I haven't done it for setting of the book is a lot of the books I read actually don't take place on Earth, or so I thought. So I started a category called Earth, where does the book take place on Earth? Yes, no, and maybe. Because sometimes the authors tend to leave out information, even though they hint at the fact that the book takes place on Earth. And I thought this would be an interesting sort of nowhere near Bechdel test kind of approach, where is it yes, is it no? Does the book take place on Earth? Or exist, I actually debated, exist in a universe that contains an Earth, or where an Earth is confirmed to exist. The wording is, does Earth exist in any shape or form in this book? Does it take place in the same universe, but not on Earth? Alternate realities, alternate histories, universes, and access by portal allowed? Yes for Earth, and no if there is zero indication that Earth exists. And there are some books, like a made-up fantasy, Wheel of Time kind of thing, where is there an Earth? Okay, that's just my fun little category I added this year. We also have previous TBR, where you can basically say, this was a book that I bought in the last year, or bought last year, and I'm reading now, and you can do previous year, this year, and reread. I should probably bump these over to here, because you don't actually have to fill in the total days or total average. These ones should be at the very end of everything, but that was something I wanted to add that was new. As a way of kind of saying, well, am I buying a lot more books? It's another one of those metrics where am I buying a lot of books, or am I working through my back catalog of books on the shelf, or am I actually reading only new material? For the most part, that is the biggest change, right, though, is from acquired, new, used, and location, is that library is now selectable in all 3 of them. And then there's a separate new and used category that's been split out from the acquired thing. So, one of the bigger changes is that DNFs are now linked to your total TBR count, your to be read count. So if you have a bunch of books that you've entered at the beginning of the year, say in this case, I believe I have an estimated 309 books. What I have at the beginning of last year, what I did was tied it in. This was something that was from last year too, is that for every acquisition that you have, if you list it as being from a library, or you bought it and you put it in the acquisitions tab, when you get it from, or it will actually say, okay, you had 309 books, now you have 310 for every, if you buy a book. For the did not finish column, for every book you add to this, it didn't do it before, but now it will subtract a book. So that way, if you've said, okay, I tried this book, it was on my shelf, getting rid of it, throwing it away, it'll now subtract that and maybe keep better track of how many books you have on your TBR. One of the requests was, can you have a separate list that's all of the every single book that you have on your shelf, like a name, author, and some stats for it. I said, I'm not doing that. That's too much work right now. So moving on to charts. I reworked some of the charts. You won't really notice the differences in them. I did add a couple things though. So I am going to do a video maybe next week about the actual reading stats, but if you want the quick gist of it, you can breeze through it here. Yeah, so purchased and free should be showing better sort of reporting now on that. You also have library used and new. And apologies for the lag issues if there are any. We'll see how well this works. YouTube gave me a warning at the start of this saying that conditions were not optimal right now. Okay, so actually, no. Where was the new one? I added a country one here. Before it was just the map. I split out this country thing, so now you can see it as a pie chart as well, if that helps. I changed something in the series tracking. Can't remember what it is, but it's better now. So I think series breakdown and series tracking didn't exist before. This status one, red versus DNF, that might have been old. Previous TBR. Okay, so these two are new. The Earth one. So yeah, okay, after a year of reading, it turns out most of the books I read actually do take place in a universe that has Earth in it. 24% no and 2% maybe. Okay, now going back to the acquisition side. Again, there's not a whole lot of changes between this year and the last. Just a couple minor ones. So most everything will function the same. And we got genre, format, all of the juicy charts that everybody's used to. Publishers, still not enough. I'm very sorry about that. I will try to find a better solution for that to see so that people can add as many publishers as they want without running into that hard limit. We also have, this library new and used one is as a new chart, and I believe that's kind of the same as before. Oh yeah, I added this one, completed versus acquired. So as you're acquiring books, you can actually compare these now and say, hey, in January I bought 3 books and I finished 4. And so for the most part, if basically if this little blue one is at the level or above, it means you're pretty much buying books more than you're reading them. And here red is completed. So yeah, it's just another way of looking at it and say, hey, am I reading or am I buying? What's happening more? That's mostly that. Series tracking remains the same. This, of course, was created by Denise Harwood, so that one's mostly untouched. There's no changes to that one from last year. In categories, one thing we did halfway through the year was we increased the number of publishers to like 46 or something, 43, I think 42. Yeah, you can do up to 42 publishers right now, and I think I only had like 25 before. So we are there. Hello, Giselle. Nice to have you in the chat. I have been working on your thing. I'll just zip over to the 2018 one, which I haven't changed fully yet. But this little red thing down here, this is for you, Giselle, where I've got like the last 5 years. Then I'm going to change this into the main spreadsheet, but I'm still working on it because I have to make a chart for it too. I am bouncing around a lot, but that's okay. So the video is just crap. Well, luckily there's not too much motion on the video. I mean, if my head's moving around, that's okay. Most of these are static spreadsheet charts anyway, so that should be okay. So this is a specially made thing for Giselle. Her comment was that she didn't want an entire decade's worth of books to be lumped, or the most recent decade worth of books to be lumped into one category. So I've kind of broken it out. Before it would be like 2000 to 2010, 2011 to 2017, and then 2018 would be its own thing. But now we have the past 5 years, just to maybe help split that out a little bit and see what's going on. More than likely, people are reading books written within the last 10 years more than they are reading books from, say, the 20s. But that should help us get some interesting data. Again, the big tip is that if you are in the summary, anything that has this little blue, you shouldn't have to change or edit anything, but anything that has this little blue thing here means that these tables are referred to a date that is specific to that year. So here you can see I've got 2018, January 1st, and 2018. Like this is now searching for something that starts on January 1st and ends on January 31st. If I want this to work for 2019, all I have to do is delete 2018. That's the wrong keyboard. 2018, add 2019, and it'll be set for that year. But I am going to continue to update these things as we go. Oh, the other big change, and I don't know if people are going to like this because it's a problem, and I wish I had a more elegant solution for it. Some people, when they're entering dates for items, didn't like the date format because in the UK it's one way, in North America it's another way. And I said, screw that. I'm not going to worry about if it's month, day, year, day, month, year. So I did year, month, day, which is something I do at work, and it's a much more linear fashion. So you still just, if say I finish a book on January 5th, all I have to do is enter January 5th and it'll update. But you'll notice that the actual cell will now read year, month, day. And my thinking for this is that it is a much more unique barcode. And since nobody on either continent seems to use it, it's not going to matter because nobody will get they want. Everyone will be sad, and I don't have to worry about pleasing anybody except myself. A lot of the times at work when I'm making folders for footage and for bins and things, I do it by year, month, day, because then no matter how things are named, as long as it has that number by year, month, day at the beginning of a folder name, it will always be in chronological order. I don't have to go state sorted or anything in a folder at work. I can just literally look at the date and scroll down and not have to change anything. And then I can still see things alphabetically, quote unquote. But, so yeah, it'll now be year, month, day. Take that, both of you continents with weird numbering systems. Why can't we agree on things? And I believe people have also asked about currency. And for the most part, if I remember, all you should have to do is when you go into format, number, currency. Nope, that's not it at all. What did I just do? I just turned the date into currency. Hooray. If you go into the document details, nope. This is the part where I don't do this all the time. Spreadsheet settings. I believe when you go into here, you have Mountain Time, Canada, calculation. Oh, is there not a... Oh yeah, so yeah, here under locale, if you switch this will also change your currencies. Right now it is set to dollars, probably Canadian dollars, but at the same time, there shouldn't be... I can't see too many situations where you are putting in information for other currencies. I think for the most part you're dealing with, you're in your own country spending your own money, and it's good to track it in the currency that you use. All right. Giselle's comment is, personally, I really love classics, and so I think it would be awesome to at least have... Oh, I can bring up the chat window. Bam! At least have 1700... earlier than 1700, 1700 to 1800, 1800 to 1820, 1821 to 1840, etc., something along those lines. I may have to do that. Okay, and also people are saying they do year, month, date. Good. So All right, not as much backlash as I was fearing. It's the best because you can sort it. Yes, Shannon, it is the best. It is so the best, and it solves so many problems that the other systems both have. And you can even do it in your brain, which I like more too. Like your brain can actually comprehend it so quickly when you start thinking year, month, day. Oh, so good. Okay, well, Giselle, I might have to give you another special gift for your spreadsheet when I get to it. Okay, I don't think I have to go through too much. If you want a copy of this, again, the link will be posted below in the doobly-doo when I finish this up. But right now, you can go to my Twitter handle at Let's Read, and it is pinned to the top of my page there. To make a copy, all you have to do is go File, Make a Copy, and then you can save it into your own location on your own Google Drive. And that's pretty much it. The current spreadsheet that everybody's accessing is locked off, so you can view everything, you can read everything, you can sort of see how it's set up, but you can't edit or change anything. And that's so that other people can download and use it. Ultimately, not too many changes this year. The biggest thing was just maybe adding a few more areas to everything. This blue thing is the limit. This is old information for a lot of people, but I did end up adding more genres, I think. That was last year or this year. Doesn't matter. Currently, this is my wish list. This is the one I have on my own thing. So I currently, whenever I have a problem, or when people let me know about some of these things, I add it into this thing here. So I've ended up, I also keep track of what I've been doing with this. So this is maybe a rough preview. Some people have asked for an illustrator for graphic novel, so I might have to make a column for that. If the work is translated, they want some columns for that. I'm going to be looking into that over the next while. If you've read a book more than once during the year, so if you reread something because you loved it or whatever, that is always a problem too. So, for me, it's problematic. Right now, the solution is you simply enter a book twice. So if you loved The Fault in Our Stars, when you first read it, put it on the spreadsheet, and if you read it again, read it again. You just add it as its own separate item under the book survey. Now, again, that is kind of a messy way of doing it. I'm going to see if I can find a better way to count that. So if you want to, all you can say is, hey, I read this twice. That's it. Diversity, I was wondering if I should. Right now, the thing about diversity is that it's very non-specific, or sometimes you're comparing things. You're comparing a lot of information that is so different from each other, or can be mixed in different ways. And let's go to categories here. So when you have diversity, it's like, what if you have something that's about mental illness, but is also something that's like an own voices thing, or about race. Like sometimes like a mental illness and race are two completely different metrics, and one book might deal on both of those issues, one book might deal with only one of those issues. And so while I did go, well, it's a combination, I still feel like combination doesn't tell you much of anything. And while my next idea, and I don't know how I feel about this, is to simply say, keep that category, but have a new one where it's like, is this book diverse? Is there none? Is there some? Is it diverse? Or is it like very blatantly, yes, this book is awesomely diverse? Again, not sure fully what to do with it, but there's something I'm thinking about, something I'm mulling over, just as maybe another way of perceiving or analyzing that data. I kind of want to do what Goodreads does, which is, hey, this is your longest book and your shortest book. I'm sure that'd be easy to set up. It's probably a simple little query. So that might be coming. This might be a year off, just so you know, some of this stuff. So our recent suggestions is more years, more decades to track. Yeah. Okay. And the other suggestion we had in there, Shannon says, I did modify last year's spreadsheet to have earlier time frames because I was reading a lot of Shakespeare. There we go. So, yeah, for people who are reading classical stuff and much more stuff from antiquity. Wonderful, wonderful antiquity. Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping over some of the comments. Not because they're bad, just because there's a lot to read. Okay. This has been a very hurried look at everything. For the most part, it operates the same way again. Oh yeah, so some people basically made it very simple. Elizabeth says that for diversity, I just did yes and no, and it was so much easier. And that, I think for a lot of people, that really is just, that's all they need to know, right? That's the thing you want to know about. Is it diverse? Are you reading diverse stuff or not? It's track it to the degree that you want to track it, in my mind. What I should have started with is, again, all you have to do to filter things out by month or by quarter or by 6-month intervals or any interval is to double click on this blue thing under the book survey and select your start date and your end date. I actually didn't do any monthly breakdowns. I'm usually fine just doing it by year and watching it unfold as it goes. But for the most part, yeah. Oh, I don't know if this was a thing from last year. I also added DNF books and the total count from... did not finish. So that way you can say, hey, I read 50 books, but I actually read 56 books, or was in the process of reading 56 books because there were a couple I gave up on. There goes the furnace. All right. So, and then the same with Pages DNF. I think I had that one on there last year. So now it'll actually count the number of pages you read, even if it was a book you didn't finish, because that small amount... say, look, I had 441 pages from books I did not finish. So that counts too. Or no. Oh, yes. I also added... I feel like this is new. This wasn't here before, physical, digital. I think earlier it was set up... oh my gosh, this was different. The way that physical and digital... This is a back-end thing, but the way that these were counted before was different. I changed how it references or what it counts as physical and digital now, because before... Yes, okay, that is a change that happened. So before, it was always based off of the format. So if you entered trade paperback, I would have it basically say, well, audiobooks were always digital, and there was graphic novels and comics and stuff. But a graphic novel can be a physical item, or it can be digital, right? So what is it? The way I was filtering this wasn't the best, to be honest. And so actually, that's why we have this thing now, physical and digital, over here. Yeah. So now this thing should be this is actually going to be way more accurate, because certain things like graphic novels weren't ever counted, and audiobooks I always listed as digital, but I guess some people could still get CDs or dub them to tape. Doubtful, but and then also the number of hours of audio that you're listening to is kind of a neat one. So I think I had some audiobook stuff for at least the narrator, and so now you can actually say, hey, you listen to X amount of audio. Now this doesn't take into account if you listen to it at like 1.5 times speed. So this isn't like, oh, I listened to 300 hours of audio, but I did listen to 300 hours worth of audio. That's sort of a way of looking at it. Of course, we now have this little tab here, new, used, and library. This I feel changed a little bit. See, some of these things I forgot because I changed them so long ago. I will do better track of it, of the changes this year, so I can outline them better. Reads, rereads, DNF, currently reading, because it'll count that, and books that you haven't returned to the library, you naughty book borrower, you. Yeah, one of the goals that I have for this next year is I saw that wonderful spreadsheet made by name of person I forgot, but it was beautiful looking at it. Like, she has person whose name I forgot has made a wonderful, visually stunning spreadsheet. I believe Kitty over at Kitty G, she's going to be using that one this year, and I saw it, and it is amazingly well organized. Like, I want to maybe improve the aesthetic look of the spreadsheet a little bit. It's very utilitarian, I guess you could say. Maybe make it look a bit nicer and have a few more, add a more of a human touch to it, but still keep it just as, make it so that we still have just as much information, just as much stuff to look at. Maybe, I don't know, I thought of maybe color theming the charts a lot more, but the problem I don't want to get into is if, say for example, you start adding in your own categories. How do I keep this beautiful but still let users input whatever the heck they want? That's sort of a thing. I don't want to be, like, say they have 50 categories and I'm only tracking 20, or I've only determined colors for 20 categories. I don't know, it might throw things off, but visually, not statistically. But yeah. Oh, we have a suggestion here. Shannon has a suggestion. 1 second, let's bring this up. Boop. I had a suggestion for a field and book survey. Reason to read, especially handy if working on a project, or could be a recommendation, awards, school, special project, something. I'm not sure what the SP designation means. It's the kids are in bed and it's late and I'm tired. I can't brain process. But that is an interesting idea. Okay, let's add that to the wish list, because that's a cool one. That's nifty. You know what? The more stuff I can add, the better. I think we're far past the point where we've gone overboard. Okay, so reason to read, book survey, reason to read. I will add this to we'll add it to the wish list. Thanks, Shannon. Book survey, reason to read. That's an interesting one. Are you choosing your reading, or is your reading influencing you? I like that. Or, is your required reading influencing you? Project. Portal in the Pages. Yeah, page from Portal in the Pages. Yes. I believe, yes. That was an amazing spreadsheet. She's had it going for a number of years. It looks like I didn't know about it. And I loved the look of her spreadsheet, and I love that there's some simple things that she's done that are just amazing. And actually, one of the things that I think is cool is that you can enter, rather than entering all this stuff in categories, in my messy little thing here, you enter it in the summary. The problem right now is that you basically have to make sure that you don't have a drop down. You have to type in. You can type in the thing, and the summary, as long as it's written right here, it'll go and find that. And so I thought, oh, that's what I need to do for next year, is maybe overhaul this. So all you have to do is type in the item that you want in the survey rather than in this categories thing. And that might make things a lot easier for a lot of people. Because then, you could just type it in here, and then it'll go and find all the information, period. But the one thing I want to do is maybe you can type it in here, but then have the drop downs in the book survey reference that. And that's a big changeover. It's perfectly doable, but that's going to take me maybe a few months of typing just to get everything sort of updated there. And I guess publishers, let's add that to the list. More publishers, always more publishers. I think when I hit 200 publishers, I think I'll be close to getting to what people are capable of reading in the course of a year. I'm bouncing between a few different ones. This is a special spreadsheet I made just for this live show, because I actually didn't want a lot of financial information leaking out about my book purchases and my shame there. Right now everything is pretty much set to $1 or $4. Yeah, so that way it's like, I don't know. I just don't want the actual number to get out of how much I spent on books. That's me. This is my personal spreadsheet that I'm bouncing between, and this one here, the Reading Spreadsheet of Doom, is the one that you can download. At this point in time, they are pretty much all the same, except for some changes I'm making to my 2017 one for next year. Basically, I can make changes to this one, and it will. This is where I can experiment, because I already have a lot of data in here that I can use to double check. All right, so people are signing off on the reason to read. I think that's a great idea. That is a good idea. We're putting that in there. That is so good. I don't know if I have a whole lot more to say, to be honest. This year's nowhere near as intensive as last year's. Most of it's pretty much the same. We can do credits. All the people to thank, I can still thank. I would definitely like to thank Denise Harwood, wonderful YouTube channel, Libby Stevenson, Laura Frey, Trina from Between Chapters, just had a baby. She just had a baby. That's amazing. Wish her happy baby. Rincey Reads, of course, Claire Rousseau, Bill from War of Words, Why Mermaids, Brian Voss, who helped me out with a lot of this. Whenever I have a problem, I go to him and I say, I don't know how to figure this thing out. What do I do? And for many other ideas, we also have Freedom Booktube, Mystic, April Sarah, Maureen Keevy, Marion GND, Rocket Reads, The Story Magpie, Eleni T, Anne Kirsty Tens, Elizabeth from Books and Pieces, Willow, Casper Lore, and of course now some of you in chat who are contributing wonderful things. Your name will be on here next year. That's one thing I should do in the wish list, is actually credit the people who are telling me things. So this is the wrong recommendation thing. Where's my wish list? There we go. Okay, so more decades. That is going to be Giselle Bradley. In fact, I think, and then we're going to put Shannon in there too. So cool. I don't know. Is there anything else I should cover? I know this was very kind of a hurried, loose wander through all of it, but yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, one thing I do that's not really part of the spreadsheet, but this is one thing I do. My book goal, I always kind of go down to where my book goal is, and I change it to a color just so I can say, oh, on the survey, where am I in my, in regards to my book goal. And then I also have it, this is something that happens, anything that you're currently reading will switch to this little green color, so you can see what books I still have on the go and was taking forever to read. These ones I only labeled orange. They won't self-label that way. I just labeled those ones orange to remind myself that these are books I didn't finish last year and need to work on. But that is not dynamic in any way. Yeah. Gosh. I think we hit the end of that. Oh, Heroic Pages. Hello! Welcome. Okay, Stumped on Publishers. Here we go. What is it? Shannon is saying, boop. I'm stumped on Publishers. I didn't use it. I didn't use it last year. I read a lot of weird or old stuff, and I'm worried about so many having one entry. I might pick a select few to be represented. I'm in the same boat as you. Some of the vintage books that I read, like the Lensman series, I wouldn't recommend them. They're by publishers who are either too small or don't publish anymore, like they're defunct. The one, what is it? Lensman, a few of the books were published through like Berkeley Press, but they were the only one of that publisher I read. And yeah, that's sort of my thinking, is that if it's one book by one imprint that you've never read, like you're not going to get a whole lot of useful data out of it. Obviously there's like the big five, or however many publishers that are like the big ones. And what is even like Radio Man, right? This book was, what is it? This book is by a publisher called The Permanent Press, and this is the only this is the only book I've read by this one particular press at all. And when you're when the publisher list can fill up so quickly, one of the things I'll do is, if I know, I will futz it a little bit. When I know that it's a publisher, when it's a publisher that is a part of the big five or an imprint of one of the larger publishers, I'll put it under that, like the big publisher. So quite a few ended up under the Galant's title for me this year because of some of the smaller imprints that they have, or even like Rebellion. I think that's the Rebellion has a bunch of little imprints as well, and or at least like 2 or 3. And so sometimes when I really don't want to go that detailed with it, I'll just throw them under the larger publisher, because then I can at least say, well, they were involved somehow. What is it? Series tracking. People are commenting about series tracking. Series tracking has been amazing for me this past year. It really helped me track, and was a bit of a wake-up call. It's very easy for the series tracking to get overwhelming, and I don't think people need to be overwhelmed by it. I have a lot of series on the go, and it's amazing how many of them I did not read this year. There's a bunch of series even from 4 or 5 years ago I have not touched, and I'm going to try and read a few more of them this year. But I don't stress out about it. It's the series are things that are ongoing all the time anyway, and the experience of life is it's broken up. You can't just read everything all at once. Makes sense. Of course, Giselle will organize them by most recently read, so she's trying to pick up every series that she has in the last year, which is a good tip. A really good tip. Speaking of tips, one of the things that I like doing for the spreadsheet is, some people, not everybody, but a few people kind of say, this is overwhelming. How do you keep track of everything over the course of an entire year? And the trick to it is really just, if you finish a book, and if you start a book, or if you finish a book, or you buy a book, you go on a shopping spree, enter the information. When I buy stuff, I enter the information right away. But I don't have to necessarily enter in everything. So, for example, under acquisitions, all I'll really do is I'll enter the date, the title, and the price that I paid. Everything else I will enter in later. And if it's really pressing, like say, if I can't tell the condition of the book by holding it, if it's new or used, I'll put that one in. But for the most part, I'll enter simply date, title, and how much I paid for it. And that way it kind of I can, and then fill in all the other information later, the genre. All this information can be added at any time. So, I'll enter the bare bones stuff, especially on the book survey, and then I'll go back through again like a month later, like do like a little monthly cleanup. I mean, it is really useful to say, well, I wrote a book, enter all the information under one line. It takes maybe 3 minutes to do it, to enter all this stuff, if you have a Goodreads tab open for the book and everything. But for the most part, it's I'll enter for book, I'll enter the title. I'll forget the author's name. I won't even put them in there. I'll do title, fantasy, any information I can get, like list off the top of my head, physical, digital, where I bought it, I'll try and remember later, and the date started and the date finished, and that's pretty much it. And then I'll fill in everything else as I have time or as I want to, and that's really the only way I will do it. Is I don't feel like I ever lose track of anything or like let it go too far. Like, you can come in a month later and still fill stuff out, and it's not this thing that you need to be always updating, or it's not something you have to be on 24/7 in order to have it work or give you any valid information. Like, you do it where there's time, and as long as you fill in the most important part, which is the name of the book. As long as you have the name of the book, you can fill in everything else later. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And when you actually read it. So, because sometimes I'll start a book, finish a book, and then later I'll go to Goodreads and check the dates, just because it's so much easier to do that. And that's really it. Yeah. So for those who have the biggest change, though, the most significant change is just DNFs will now count towards reducing your TBR pile. So, under the summary. I mentioned this earlier, so if everyone who has stuck around, this is old information. So this stuff here, this TBR progress estimated and reading challenge goals this will update a little more dynamically now. So yeah, if something is listed as DNF, it will knock it off your list. And even then, don't worry if this number remaining is not totally accurate. Depending on how you count things, sometimes I had an omnibus copy or a bind up, and I think at the start of the year when I did my TBR count, I listed it as one book. And then this next year in 2018, I'm actually listing it as like 4 or 5 books in one book. And so my numbers shifted or changed a little bit. I'm also not counting the books I put on my e-reader towards the pile just to avoid that stress. But for the most part, if this number is off, don't worry. This number does not have to be exact. You know, as a reader, you typically know how many books you have on your shelf. Maybe not the exact count number, but if you only have 5 books on your shelf until you hit 0 books, then you're going to know you're close just by looking at your shelf versus having to do a big count of all the books. If you can't count how many books there are, then yeah, you're nowhere near your goal anyway. But or nowhere near it doesn't have to be everyone's goal of 0 anyway. But yeah, so this is more dynamic. And again, don't stress about it. Oh yeah, this is new. I forgot this part. Related to all that though is the TBR year start. It'll actually measure your increase, right? And your TBR read, or in this case would be, I guess, a decrease, and how many books you didn't finish. So yeah, this is what I started with at the beginning of the year. Obviously, I read more, or I bought more than I read, or acquired more than I read, and didn't finish a few books, but I ended the year with more books than I had in the first place. So that's how that works. That's an extra little table we threw in at the bottom there. Oh, this is new. Gosh, now I'm remembering everything. The DNF month. So when you did not finish a book in a certain month, this will now track. I may not have made a chart for this. I think I did. Book survey. Did I make a chart for that? I don't believe I did. Read versus DNF. Huh. Okay. Well, I guess we got to fill that one in. Let's just quickly stick it right here. Let's go to the spreadsheet of doom. Go to our summary. See, there's always things to do, no matter what. This feels new to me. This one over here, acquired status. It'll actually show. This will do a better breakout of how much is being spent on things. Although I guess really purchase is the only one. Although if you want to, you can actually monitor how much stuff worth people gave you. Might be kind of not a good way to look at those numbers. Yeah, and how much, like, you could say, hey, I got this much worth of stuff for free. That'll be in there too. Not that we really need to assign a value to arcs, but whatever, we can track it. That's why we're doing it. There's no malicious reason for this. Okay, sorry, back down to this. DNF month. This needs to be a thing. So, they changed the charty bit, didn't they? They changed the icon for the chart thing. So if I go insert chart, all I really need is a column. Customize this a little bit. DNF. Oops, wrong keyboard. I don't have my other keyboard hooked up because I can only have a mouse and a microphone hooked up to this thing. I can't use my real keyboard. DNF month. Great. So now this should show us. I'll just take this. Hello. All right, I have to do this. Charts. And these ones are all empty simply because it's the this is a blank a blank sheet. All the way, here we go. So we're gonna put this one right here. There. So now if you download the spreadsheet, this will be on there too. But wait, before you download it, let me delete this part. There. Great. As always, if I do any major updates to this, I will let people know through Twitter. And there is also I will let people know through Twitter, but also make sure to check back every now and then, just make sure that that things are going on. Chat was talking about series tracking. Here, let me go to this series tracking. No more full. Yeah, series tracking is a pretty good one. I like it. Mostly because I don't have too many series on the go, to be honest. Or not an exorbitant number. But I'm also I don't remember all the series that I've been reading. So as I come across them, and I remember that I was working on a series or something, because I've got some books on the shelf that definitely aren't on this list, then I'll start putting them on here and updating this information. But for the most part, this is only series that I actively read or looked at in the last year anyway. So that's another way of looking at it and keeping it sort of manageable. Yeah. Alrighty. I will be doing a statistics video that's going to be recorded. I'm going to record a statistics video and release that soonish. Because, I don't know, I just got to put all the charts and stuff together and figure out what I want to do for that. But I think that's all there is. I think that's all I've got. Yeah. How's everybody doing? What's everybody else been up to? I can't believe this. I introduced my own awkward silence into my own live show. Great. I do have videos in the pipe. The big reason I haven't been releasing videos is because newborn baby. Well, he's not as newborn as before. He's getting along. He's months old now, but still going to bed very late at night. And usual booktube video time has been taken up